Welcome to TruPowur, home of the most powerful marketing tools, training, and technology on planet Earth. Get ready to earn, enjoy, and experience more than you ever dreamed was possible. If you're tired of just getting by and ready to really thrive, then buckle in and listen up. Here's your host, Matt Fox.
Well, welcome, everybody. Have you ever wondered, how do I know what are the best markets to be able to service my customers? In other words, what are the best products? What are the best services? And when should I be looking at those products and services at specific times? And what are all of the markets that are available that I can take a customer on a specific journey in order to best facilitate the most benefit for the customer, ultimately fulfilling your needs as well. And so today on episode 250 of TruPowur Academy, we are going to delve deeper into that process. So without any further ado, let me share my screen and we'll jump right into it. So what are the available markets? Well, we know that we have the utility audit, the autopilot program, commercial and residential electric and natural gas, and then solar. And then there's a couple of different solar applications where we can have the customer independent and install that or use the solar farm for those people that do not qualify. So let's take just a moment and look at the utility audit. The utility audit allows us to go backwards up to 4 years, identifying the errors that are on a commercial customer's electric bill. Not just what's written on the bill, but actually buried within the utility that's not visible to the customer. And based on the statute of limitations, we can get that back as a refund for the customer. For those customers that do not fit that criteria for the utility audit, being commercial, and by the way, the utility audit can be done in all 50 states, does not matter whether it's regulated or deregulated. So the same thing with the autopilot, does not matter whether it's regulated or deregulated, but the autopilot program facilitates a different aspect, and that is not going backwards, but looking forward. So we can take all of the customers' bills to include their electric, natural gas, water, trash, sewer, anything that is not a mortgage payment, a car payment, or a credit card. Any other monthly bill that they have, they can upload to the system. We then add that to our aggregated pile and renegotiate how much they're currently paying without switching any of their services. So all of their services are going to remain identical and the same. So we don't switch anything. And so on average for a residential customer, that has the potential to save them generally on average of about $400 to $1,700 a year. So that can be very beneficial, especially for a lot of customers that are in areas that are not deregulated. And then, of course, we have commercial, matrix, and custom pricing. So matrix pricing is pricing that the suppliers give us on a daily basis. And those are the rates that are published based on a lot of different criteria, but the suppliers are giving us those matrix pricing. And that's how we generate proposals, is through matrix pricing. Custom pricing is a much bigger footprint, and we can facilitate getting a custom price for a commercial customer based on some different criteria that we'll delve into in a little bit. Residential is only matrix pricing, and it's a much smaller footprint. However, we also have some other options like the autopilot, and then, of course, the solar applications in select states. If those customers are homeowners and want to be energy independent, then we can install the solar panels on their roof. However, if they have less than best credit or are a renter, live in a condo, apartment, trailer, cardboard box, anybody who doesn't have free will access to the roof, then of course we can use the free solar farm program as well. So let's kind of dig into this just a little bit and go over to the quick launch menu. And we have recently updated the customer request for leads section, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And you're going to notice that a couple things have been added. One, the link back to the market updates has been set up. We've been doing some work in the pricing platform and had to move that to the side temporarily for a couple of weeks while we were doing some work. And now that is back and live. So if you click on that, it will bring you into the back office of the pricing platform to the latest market updates, which is basically the analytics that is done on a daily basis and then creates this report to let you know where the best markets are for your customers. So in other words, if I'm looking at commercial customers, the best place for me to focus where I can provide the greatest amount of impact or the greatest amount of value is going to be in Connecticut, Delaware, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. For commercial natural gas, you've got your choices for residential electric and natural gas. And then there will typically be some updates on what the NYMEX is doing in the natural gas market, because it all has an effect and a trickle down, since a lot of electric is generated via natural gas. However, if you notice, I'm going to go back just because I remember the day to the 14th. Anytime there are auctions or custom pricing that is done through the auction platform, the results of that will be published. And so this kind of gives you a high level idea as to where some of those best markets are as well. So for example, here you can see the results for Illinois and Pennsylvania that, you know, your competitor was at 7.6. We were able to get the customer down to 6.48, which is 11 mils. That provides you some great information. So I see that I've got Illinois and Pennsylvania. So if I come back up here and I'm looking at this, I know I've got Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois. I've got some choices here, but based on the results that I've seen in the auction, then that tells me that I might want to choose Illinois and Pennsylvania, because I already know that the suppliers in those areas, based on the results of competitive bids that have come in via the auctions, then that tells me that they're going to be more competitive in those areas. So that's going to provide me a lot of opportunity as well. So that has been added back in there to make things a lot easier for you, so that when you're selecting a request for leads, you'll know what markets are best to pursue. Now, there's a second part to that. We don't want to just go into it blindly. We'd like to be able to provide that customer the maximum amount of benefits as possible. And so what we have done is actually outlined all of the states. They're in alphabetical order, and then some of the different areas or markets, so that you can see, are those markets available in those particular states? And so not all states are equal. So in Alabama, we can do the utility audit, we can do the autopilot, but that's about it. So there is nothing that is going to be a quick turnaround other than the autopilot can be a faster turnaround. And the autopilot is available for both residential and commercial. Alaska, Arizona. And so you can see what services and products are available based on state. Well, this is all done in alphabetical order by state. It might make it a little bit easier if I could see the markets grouped together. So if you open up this PDF, you're going to get that same list of available markets based on state. But on the second page, we have grouped those so that we've put all of the markets that have the highest concentration of available services and products towards the top of the page. So if I'm trying to consider, do I want Rhode Island or do I want Illinois or do I want Massachusetts or Pennsylvania? This is going to tell you that in Illinois, we can do the utility audit. We can do the autopilot for both residential and commercial. The commercial custom pricing is available for both electric and natural gas. For matrix pricing, it is only available for electric. For residential matrix pricing, it is available for electric and natural gas. The community solar farm program is available in Illinois, and so is the residential solar install is available. So I think that this is going to make it a whole lot easier in making those choices. So when you select what type of lead you want, whether it's residential or commercial, I'm going to look at this. And that's why some people say, well, why does it break it down like that? Well, if I'm wanting commercial customer leads for electric and natural gas, then, and I want Illinois, then that's going to tell me that support is going to take a block of Illinois customers and then add that to my CRM. And the reason we do it that way is to ensure that those customers that go into your CRM do not end up in anybody else's. So take good care of them. You'll be the only person talking to them, and so forth. So now down here on this list, these are linkable. And so if you click on the utility audit, it is going to bring up the submit page for the utility audit so that you can look at the different cost centers or disciplines that we do audit. When we open the conversation, we're typically only talking about the electric. If you try and throw the whole shopping list at the customer, I guarantee you the next thing they're going to tell you is send me some information, because it's just way too much. It's an overload. Don't do that to the customer. Don't do that to yourself. Pick one lane, stick with it. Once you get a copy of the electric bill, then again, we're going to go on that next journey. So if it was Illinois, for example, let me blow this up here just a little bit, make it easier to see. There we go. So we've got a copy of the utility bill for Illinois. We don't need to look at the autopilot, but we're probably going to look at their electric and natural gas. So immediately upon getting that electric bill, we're going to upload it to the auditor so they can get to work, because the audit takes time, right? So the audit can take 30, 60, 90, even 120 days, depending on the size, complexity, and the duration of that, how far back we go based on the statute of limitations. Some states are 3 years, some states are 4 years. So I always say we can go up to 4 years in the rears looking at those. So that's tomorrow money. It's not going to be a quick turnaround, but simultaneously, unbeknownst to the customer, then we're going to want to add that into the pricing platform. And so if I click on that, that's going to bring us back to the back office to where we can now add that customer's information into the system and then create a proposal. If you haven't done this before, when you get your first utilities, let support know, and somebody will get with you and walk you through those processes. So we will mentor you to make sure that everything runs smoothly. But it's valuably important to get that done as quickly as possible. So we want to upload that to the auditors and then immediately create the proposal and get that proposal back to the customer. And then we will show you how to transition from the utility audit to the proposal for that customer. So keeping that in line with Illinois, let's say if that customer's information was already loaded into the system and they were in the Chicago area and used under a million kWh, and just for your information, matrix pricing on commercial can only be available for customers who have usage below 1 million kWh. So if I put in 2 million, it is going to turn the results back that there is nothing available because it's over a million kWh. So if you do have somebody that is, say, 2 million kWh, go ahead and put in 999,999. That's 1 million kWh, right? And so once we do the proposal, then we can certainly still send that to the customer. The good news is that everything is going to be doubled. So if the savings was 30,000, it's actually going to be 60,000 because we're only looking at half as much. So we'll get into that more a little bit later. Now, up here, you'll see that the effective date, that's when we want the contract to be executed, go into, to go on flow. If you see that red asterisk, that's telling you that there is a future date that is available that would be better for the customer. Doesn't mean you have to choose it, but it's a benefit. So I can see right here that 7.7 is a lot better. I also know that the average rate that this customer is paying is 12.37 or something like that. All right. 12.37. So if I'm looking at a customer that uses less than a million kWh or even over a million kWh, based on this information, what they are currently paying, their usage, in this case, we would be able to save that customer $186,000 over a 48-month period. Now, I know that that's a pretty easy yes. I don't think too many people would say, no, I'm not interested in saving almost $200,000. So this gives you an opportunity to kind of look at the margins here a little bit. And if you wanted to raise that, then that would also bring up how much you have the potential to earn. It's still going to keep that estimated savings on the high side. I personally like to keep it between 3 and 7 mils, but I'm just showing you what some of those options are. So this gives you a lot of great opportunities to increase your income while still having a huge benefit to the customer. So in this case, if we were talking to a customer who had 3 million kWh in usage, then we could still do the proposal based on this. The good news is the customer is going to say, wow, $166,000, that's just fantastic. The good news is there's a huge amount of savings. The bad news is that it's not 166,000, it's actually 498,000. So it'd be 3 times that based on those numbers. So, but I would say in general, probably a good 60% of the deals that you see are typically going to be under a million kWh. So you shouldn't have too many problems there. So if you had a customer that was at 250,000 kWh, we'll update the system. Then you could see that the savings would be $40,000. and the commission would be a residual of $7,300 a year or $6,600 upfront. So you can choose when you go to contract, do I want annual payments, which is upfront, or do I want residual payments, which is monthly? You typically are going to make about 10 to 15% more based on residual. So it's always better to go that route. And you never have to worry about the potential. If that company went out of business, you'd never have to worry about the potential of a chargeback in that case. So it's valuably important that the moment we get that utility bill for the utility audit, then we immediately want to create the proposal. And if they're a huge account, then we can also take advantage of the custom pricing. We can't do that right now because I don't have any customers in this platform. And so as soon as a customer is added into the system, then that will allow you to select custom pricing, which is the same as the reverse auction, which is where all of the suppliers are going to come into the system and bid against each other, counterbid, bid, and drive that price below market. So if we were at 7.7, odds are we're going to get those numbers right around 6 or something to that effect. So when we look at these markets down here, again, with Illinois, the market was at 7.5, but we were able with the reverse auction to get down to 6.13. So if I did have 10 mills and I do the reverse auction, obviously the amount of savings is going to go up significantly by 13.93 mils, almost 14 mils. So that's almost a penny and a half. So that's pretty significant. So now that we've gotten the electric and natural gas, once that gets signed and we can move forward, that's when you want to go back to the customer and then talk about the other cost centers. We've already got one inked. We've got the electric in being audited. And then now we can talk to the customer about some of the other cost centers that have the potential to increase the amount of the refund. If natural gas is one of those cost centers that the customer has, then guess what? We're going to do exactly like we did with the electric with the natural gas. By this point, you can have a conversation just about anything with the customer. So once that is done, then obviously we are going to review and see if, in this case, since it was a business, then we would be looking at the solar farm, because the solar farm is available for both residential and commercial. Currently, the solar install is only available for residential. We are still pushing forward to hopefully have both all 50 states and commercial available sometime in January. We have a meeting here in Dallas the first week of January. In fact, if you have a lot of realtors, mortgage people that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, then you want them to probably come to this event, and we'll post when that's going to be coming up. But we're going to have a huge meeting for all of those people that are interested in that. And we'll be posting that here pretty soon about the event coming up in January to go over all of these different disciplines in the solar market. So anyhow, that is the markets that are available. And so when you decide to order leads for your CRM, you want to take a lot of those things into mind. The market updates, where you're going to have the greatest amount of impact, and then compare that. If you've got several choices, what choices are you going to make based on what is available, based on what other things can I provide the customer when I finish the last step? In other words, if I'm doing the audit, can I look at doing matrix? Do I do custom pricing? Is solar available? And just so you know, when the auditors get the utility bill, that immediately goes to our engineers who also evaluate that to double check and make sure, or whether or not power factor correction would be in order as one of those areas of benefit. So there are a lot of great valuable information. And I told you we were going to put the list together to make that a whole lot easier for you to digest and select. So you know, when you're ordering customer leads, you know that you're going to be able to get the greatest amount of impact, right? I mean, if you go and order customer leads for Montana, yeah, you can do the utility audit for commercial, and you can do the autopilot for both residential and commercial, but that's it. And so the margins on the autopilot on commercial are not bad. They're pretty decent. Because it's the same as with the utility audit, where we split the savings. So it just depends on the amount of savings. But the audits are not a quick turnaround. It is our door opener, which is a much softer, friendlier, easier approach. And so we want to make sure that we're able to provide those customers the greatest amount of benefit all along the way. So when you go into your CRM and you click on your leads, you will always see a stack of fresh leads. If you don't have any fresh leads, make sure that everything is set to all, and then click update so that way you can see. Because I know that I've got some Massachusetts leads in here. So if I tick lead source and then put that to Massachusetts, this 971 is going to go down to 234. So now I know that all of these leads are only Massachusetts. So once I select that, it is going to put in the first customer. You can see up here, this is one of 234. When I'm done with this customer and I have resulted the call based on whatever the finish was, then I can save that and then go to the next lead. As you make different changes and result the progress, so if I take this and change it to first voicemail drop and hit save, when I go back to my leads, it is going to add it to the first voicemail drop and reduce this by 1. So over time, these fields are going to grow. But if I'm going to spend a day going back through different areas, and maybe I want to spend a few minutes and just follow up and say on Friday, I'm going to just go ahead and call all these people one more time and go through that rather quickly. So that's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to result your calls. And so when you start getting low on leads, make sure that you give support enough time. Sometimes they get busy and it could take a couple hours before they get those uploaded. So don't wait till you've got the last lead in the system. And also your audit script or guideline, commercial, residential, solar, the solar farm, all of those scripts are available right there online. So if you're new with the TruPowur platform, then make sure you have scheduled a follow-up call a week out so that we can review the calls. All the calls are recorded. That way we can go back and give you advice to help you get to the next level. So we are going to pause here for a moment and open up the floor for a little Q&A. And as most of you know, that the Q&A sessions are not recorded. So if you are watching this on the replay, if you have questions, join us next time. Otherwise, you might miss out on some valuable information. Well, I appreciate everybody being on the call today. And as always, you don't have to go home, but you can stay here. So have fun storming the castle. Bye now.